Hey, everybody.
Hi, guys. Well, from the lovely days in Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast,
I'm Frank.
and I'm Dan.
Coming up on today's episode, What Mormons Believe.
Another What Mormons Believe. We haven't done a What Mormons Believe for a while. So, we'll tell you some more about... This is actually what Mormons do and what they believe.
It's the name of the segment more than it is what we're actually going to be doing. We're not really going to be talking about what they believe.
We've had a few people saying, hey, I need more Mormon stuff.
Yeah, people come to us for Mormon stuff.
Well, they should. It's hilarious. Mormons are great in that weirdo way.
They are weird, Dan.
Well, I mean, you know, Mormons themselves. Well, Mormons are weird. Mormons are weird, but
They believe weird stuff, and they are weird.
And God love them.
I guess.
I don't know. I've got some delightful Mormon friends.
I guess.
I had lunch just yesterday with a good Mormon friend, and
That's weird.
I've been begosioning one Mormon friend.
Oh, he's a
lately.
verb now.
Yeah. I've totally just
Begosianize.
Begosion. Yeah, I've been seeing what's what with that.
To Begosian.
To Begosion a person. Anyway. What do you got?
Well, I have the story of somebody God letting them off the hook, so to speak.
Oh, good.
Their conscience, at least, has been let off the hook. This is the story of Alicia Gray, former math teacher in Alabama.
Oh.
In Mobile.
No.
Mobile?
Mobile.
Mobile. I thought they said mobile.
Upwardly mobile, Alabama.
Nonetheless.
Do they have mobile phones there?
Oh, that's...
I don't know.
No, they have cell phones.
They have cell phones.
Cellular phone. Anyways, she, after pleading guilty to having sex with a 14-year-old student...
Oh, dear.
And getting a plea deal.
Yeah.
Where she's now only going to do 6 months in jail, be on probation for 5 years, and be registered as a sex offender, clearly.
Yeah. Because she is one.
Because she is. If you're going to have a sex offender list, then she deserves to be on it.
Yep.
And we'll save that other part of the discussion for another time.
Part of the discussion where we ask whether that's a good idea, whether
to have a sex offender list? Yeah, that part of it. But anyways, she has released a video apology.
Oh.
With her pastor, who interviews her. And it's very clear that this woman feels, she says in it that she does not feel shame for what she did. And
because Jesus has absolved her.
Because she feels like she's good with Jesus.
And because this 14-year-old was pretty cute. So why would she be ashamed?
Yeah. She said that when God looks at her, he sees Jesus.
Huh?
I know. I don't get that whole weird born-again, saved by grace, Trinitarian crap. But, clearly that's...
She's forgiven.
She's forgiven.
Not by the parents of the boy she molested.
Well, it doesn't go into that.
But
we don't have that information.
But she's good with God.
Yes.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Being good with God is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she, there's a whole video. We'll have to post the video if anybody's dumb enough to watch it.
It's boring.
I watched the whole thing.
It's a little boring.
It's a lot boring, actually.
But boy, she is. What's funny is that I don't ever hear penitence in that video. All she does is like say there was a hole in her heart.
Here's the quote. Here's the thing she keeps saying. This is a quote, and she keeps repeating some form of it throughout the video. I had insecurities, I had pain in my own heart, and a void that I needed to fill through attention. That void was needing Jesus.
No, that void is you not having boundaries.
Yeah. Clearly.
That void is you don't need Jesus, you need therapy.
Well, we talked about this where you're walking down the street and there is a young person and you look up and you go, my God, that person is beautiful.
Right. Even sexy. You could even have an initial response of like, oh, wow, that's sexy.
And then you realize, holy shit, they are far too young, and you shut it off.
You shut it down.
You shut it down. Any healthy, normal human being
That's what a grown person. There's nothing wrong with you looking at a person and going, holy shit, that person's really gorgeous. As long as this next moment is, holy shit, that person's 14, done.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna shut that down now.
Exactly. She didn't have that second trigger.
No.
And so
she thought, hey, he's really cute, and look at all the attention he's showing me.
Yeah, this beautiful young lad.
What if he's ugly?
What a waste.
What if he's ugly?
What a waste of 6 months in jail.
Oh my God. I think we both sentenced ourselves to hell just then. Oh dear. Oh dear. Yeah. Anyway, the point is, she's not allowed to do that. And you and I were talking about this because this brings up some really interesting stuff for me. Because the initial impulse when you hear about a woman having sex with a 14-year-old boy is very different than the initial impulse you have when you hear about a man having sex with a 14-year-old girl.
28-year-old woman, 28-year-old man. I mean, think about the difference there of then having sex with the 14-year-old counterpart.
Right. It's now, mind you. Okay, so
it plays out very differently.
Yeah,
and we were both really questioning that difference.
Yeah, and the sexism inherent in that.
Oh yeah.
But there's also there's also this sense of like, men are much more likely to be sexual predators.
Right.
Than women are.
Right.
So, I mean, it comes from a place of like, in general, men are.
Right. And I don't know if it's just the media that's covering it or if it's just the fact that there are so many more female teachers in this country than there are male teachers. But all the stories that I keep hearing about lately of teachers having sex with their students in sort of a high school or middle school setting is it's been women.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is at all.
Well, I do wonder, like,
I don't know if it's just that the media picks up on it more.
Or is it just that we hear it reported, but the language is so different that we don't even associate it? Because if this were a man, it might be just reported as a rape. Instead of a woman, instead of someone having sex with a minor,
right.
It might just be reported as a rape. Which it is technically, it's even if we assume that this child was consenting, which they don't have the legal right to do.
They can't legally consent, but they willingly went into it.
It changes the dynamic of it because it's statutory rape, but it's not violent rape, and that there is a huge difference. It's not forcible rape,
right?
And and that's a very that changes things. So it's still wrong.
It's all so icky to like even go treading into it. Just
right.
But anyways,
weird.
It's all very weird.
But at least Jesus has forgiven her.
No, and that's the really beautiful thing here. Is the pastor talks about how she's a different person now.
Yeah, I would say getting caught having sex with a 14-year-old, that'll change a person. That'll change you. I'll bet she is a different person. Yeah. Also, I'll bet that she became that different person right in front of the judge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's weird. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well,
and her husband is staying by her side.
Oh, God, she's married?
She's married, yeah.
I didn't know she was married.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Jesus. That's just,
And he kind of looks like, I don't know... I don't know. He's attractive enough.
Sure.
Well, she's a cute woman, actually. Yeah, he's a good-looking guy. So I don't get it. I want
to see their picture.
She's cute.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, right.
When I was 14, I would have totally gone after that.
Oh my God. And there's him.
He's a good-looking fella.
He's a good-looking guy.
He
looks like he's an office worker and doesn't get a lot of exercise.
Sure. Salary man.
When he was younger, I bet he was a strapping
He's emotionally withholding, though.
He might be. We don't know.
He's emotionally cold, and she needed to find someone who could give her more.
This is a very dangerous part of the conversation that we're having.
We should probably move on from the story.
Here's her mugshot, though. Oh, sweetheart.
She's a woman who benefits from makeup.
And not crying straight for the last 12 hours.
Oh yeah, that's probably true too.
Those bags under her eyes,
yeah.
you don't get those without some serious.
Yeah, she's
tears.
She's
a sad face right there.
Oh.
It is. She's been sad for a while. That's not the cute.
She needs to be sad for a very, very long time.
See right here.
Yeah.
Look how she's a very attractive woman.
Oh my God.
So the bummer.
Yeah.
She kind of, threw away her education and whatnot.
Yeah.
She can't teach kids anymore.
I certainly hope not.
No, I mean, clearly not.
Well, it just depends on what model you go under, because I'm about to talk about the Catholic Church.
Oh.
And the Catholic Church's model is to just move people to other places.
Oh, too bad she doesn't work for that system.
She needed to be in the Catholic system before she
a Catholic priest, is what you're saying?
Yeah. I will move on to this story.
Please, dude.
The Vatican has recently been confronted by the UN.
What?
Dun, dun, dun.
I guess if you set yourself up as a country,
yeah,
the UN can kind of go after you that way.
Right. So the Vatican...
Okay, so what are they doing?
Well, they're talking about child sex abuse by clergy.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
And so this is obviously a long time coming.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I have to explain the church's history with child sex abuse, do I?
2 sentences.
They do it a lot. That's 1 sentence.
And
I mean, okay, so the thing is,
higher ups in the Catholic Church weren't reporting.
Right. They were handling internally, internally, quote unquote.
And so usually they would just move a priest to a new area.
And not explain to anybody that this priest had been abusing children.
Right.
Just
in the new area.
Right.
Just like he should have had a big warning.
Yeah, he has to wear like the bright green robes now.
Well,
so that
he has to wear a little thing around his neck that says adults only.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm only allowed to talk to adults.
Which sounds really dirty. Now you've made it sound even dirtier. Adults only. I mean, this whole thing, back before, like up until the 70s, nobody would even talk out loud about priest abuse. Then in the 70s and 80s, it started to really be talked about. And then in the 90s and the aughts, it became a huge, huge deal. The Holy See, as the Vatican is known, signed on to. They were signatories to what is it? Some sort of UN resolution on against child abuse, and then they submitted one sort of report about what they were implementing. This was in the 90s, and then they stopped. They stopped submitting reports because there were just too many problems. There were all of these allegations, and so they just sort of stopped doing that. Just because it wasn't working. So the UN has now called them in, and they grilled them. They positively grilled them, and it's funny because it made a lot of news.
Okay,
and yet, the more I read about it, the more I saw that they just weren't going to do anything.
It's all for show.
They claim that they're doing stuff. They claim that stuff is really happening. And the Pope recently did make a statement about how this is the great shame of the church, and we're going to, and we can't let it continue.
Good.
It's a nice thing to say. What are you doing about it? Well, we don't know, because they refuse to have any transparency whatsoever.
Yeah.
Their new policy now is that when it happens, they do report it to the local police.
Good.
Where that is law. In the countries where they're legally required to do so, they will now do it.
Oh. That's icky.
A little sneaky. gross. A little gross. But yeah, I mean, like, the UN kept asking them questions about, hey, what are you doing to, like, be more transparent about this? And they were like, no, we're not going to do transparency here. That's not how we're going to do this. But they claim that they get it. They totally get it. Quote. So here's the line of questioning.
They get that we've talked about it. We've had some committee meetings.
We totally understand.
We now collectively understand that this was wrong.
We think that pedophilia among priests is a bad thing. I really can't emphasize that enough.
We put it to a vote. And it turns out we didn't get the supermajority that we were hoping for, but we did get 50 plus 1. So
yeah, it was
50% plus 1.
And we think that shows progress. No, here's what they did say. So they were asked, does the Holy See believe that pedophilia is something that can be successfully overcome? Mm-hmm. And Archbishop Silvano Tomasi said, to prevent abuse of minors is a real, immediate concern.
It is a concern.
Thank you, Archbishop. That is great. I'm really warmed by that. He said priests were, quote, not functionaries of the Vatican, but citizens of their countries and fall under the jurisdiction of their own countries.
Right.
It's not our fault.
They're not our citizens.
It's not my business.
If you have an American priest who's done this, maybe you should talk to America.
Yeah.
Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know why you're talking to us, Ireland. That's your business. Handle your business, Ireland.
God. That's what they're saying. Wow. Okay.
Somebody asked about the church's practice of moving priests suspected of abuse.
Yeah.
To which Bishop Charles Scicluna,
beautiful name.
They have the most lovely names. Who is the Vatican's former chief prosecutor of clerical sexual abuse? He said, it is a no-go simply to move people from one diocese to another.
Okay.
This is really comforting language. It's a no-go, Frank.
We've consulted.
It feels so icky. It feels like they're like, no, we really frown on that.
Yeah.
We really now. I mean before, but now we really are frown. That's a no-go.
Yeah.
Not we've put strict policies in place and there are like their accountabilities.
We thought it we thought it was a go for a while.
Yeah. Now, we're putting
but it's a no-go.
It's a no-go.
It turns out that it's a no-go. There was a typo on a memo that came out, and they left out what turned out to be a fairly pivotal word.
Right.
Which was no.
I mean, we had a yellow light up. Now we're putting a red light.
When the priests ask the question, is this something we're allowed to do?
We say no.
We've amended that memo.
We don't say
we've edited that memo.
I mean, we don't try to be too restrictive. Here's another one.
We are an ecumenical bunch.
Here's another quote from Bishop Charles Scicluna.
Okay.
He insists it's not, quote, it is, quote, not the policy of the Holy See to encourage cover-ups, but added, the Holy See gets it that there are things that need to be done differently. I'm sorry. Fuck you. Like, this is the worst, like, conciliatory language I've ever heard. This is, like, if a corporation were fixing a problem in this way, we would all just know, oh, you're not doing anything about it.
Well, like,
I get it.
Like if it was like, who was it? Toyota, who had the problem with the cars accelerating, right?
Which actually turned out not to be real.
Oh, it wasn't even them?
It wasn't even a real thing. No, it was them, but it didn't actually even turn out to be a real thing.
It wasn't a real thing. Oh, okay. But nonetheless, or like their seatbelts failing.
Right, yeah.
Or something like that. Some giant recall. and just being like, well, we found out that our seatbelts were supposed to work.
Right. Well, I mean, to me, this is just like
Bad seatbelts is a no-go.
The words that we would know mean something are we've put this policy in place, specific policy in place. Right. Priests who do not obey these policies, bishops who do not obey these specific policies will see these consequences.
Right.
Like if we heard that terminology, we would know that things were happening.
Right.
But when you hear things like, "Oh no, we get it. That's wrong. We don't like that at all."
What it suggests is that's as far as the conversation has gone.
Right, exactly.
Is that they are like, "Oh, this is bad."
Like everybody's sitting around at the Vatican drinking wine, going, "Yeah, I don't think we should be allowing this." But I mean, what can we do?
It doesn't matter how many times you say it, Dan, or how many different forms of the same joke. It makes me laugh every single time.
I don't see what we could do about it. Well, what do you mean do about it? Is there something we're supposed to do?
It's so absurd.
Well, yeah, we're supposed to not molest boys or children in general. Yeah, I agree with that. We're definitely not supposed to molest people. I'm pretty sure that we should not molest. Can we all just say that that's a no-go? Can we all just say that? Yes? Okay, good. I think we're making progress. Here. Oh, Jesus.
Thank God for these retreats.
I can't wait for the next one.
Imagine all the progress we'll make then.
Now, who wants to go skinny dipping?
Yeah. No, not with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Anyway, what do you got?
All right. I have a very interesting study that has been done into the brains of spiritual folks, believers,
okay.
the religious folks of the world.
We're not talking spiritual, but not religious.
This is spirituality. Here's the headline.
Okay.
Spirituality and religion may protect against major depression by thickening brain cortex.
Oh, I have a thin cortex?
Well, do you suffer from major depression?
No.
Okay, well, I don't know that.
I have in my life.
Okay, so this is how it works. This is what the study was.
Okay.
They got a group of people and they had them sort of, and so they had religious and not very religious folks.
Mm.
And they put them through MRIs and looked at their brains.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm getting all the details involved in it. And they looked at, and they also asked about history of depression.
Mm.
And they looked at their brains.
Yeah.
And turns out that the religious folks had tended to have a thicker brain cortex, and that they had less occurrences of depression than the not religious group, who had less thickening of the brain cortex, and who suffered from more depression.
What does thickening of the brain cortex mean?
I don't know, but it's something in the brain.
What it sounds to me like is that because okay, so here's what I'm imagining, and this is just me with all I have is a PhD in neuroscience. So really, I don't have enough. No, I do not have any training in neuroscience whatsoever. But what it ends up sounding like is these believers can lock down their beliefs. They don't have to have any sort of plasticity in their worldview.
Right.
And so they can just hunker down.
Right.
And keep themselves safe in their little dome.
Right. And the article says, and I'm just going to read this. It says, although more research is necessary, the results suggest that spirituality or religion may protect against major depression by thickening the brain cortex and counteracting the cortical thinning that would normally occur with major depression. The study is the first published investigation on the neurocorrelates of the protective effect of spirituality and religion against depression.
Now, see, this is fascinating. I don't doubt it. I'm sure.
I don't doubt it either, because I think it's what you said. The less plasticity would I mean, if you're more open to discovery and new thoughts, the patterns in your brain can go any old which direction. It would seem to me, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I'm buying this because we're both full of shit. Like neither of us knows what we're talking about in this case. But I mean, I do
think it's interesting that
I think. Well, that sucks for us.
It will. It does suck a little bit, and what it definitely does is it definitely gives certain folks out there who will come upon this study and then preach about it over the pulpit.
See, Jesus is curing your depression.
You being here means you're healthier than those non-believers.
Well,
is what they're going to be able to say.
It's a sad thought, but I mean, I'm going to go with George Bernard Shaw on this, who said that the fact that a believer is happier than a skeptic is no more to the point than the fact that a drunken man is happier than a sober one.
Sure. Well, yeah, I would take I'll risk it any day of the week.
Yeah.
I'd rather
live in my reality and have that reality sometimes depress me.
And when I get depressed, I'll go get medical help instead of just praying about it.
Right.
Like that's
even if it does help. I mean, maybe what this science can do for us down the road is give us ways. Is give us a good view into what's happening with depression that could eventually help cure depression without the fairy tales of Jesus.
Right.
That would be nice.
That would be nice.
So, I mean, what I think you and I are not recommending, however, is that if you feel majorly depressed, go out and find you some Jesus.
Well, specifically, it doesn't say anything about Jesus in here.
Right, I know.
Jesus doesn't heal you. It's your
spiritual belief,
your brain patterns, your focus on the spirituality causes this thickening to occur, which for whatever reason, because we know nothing about the brain, you or I, leaves you less disposed or less predisposed to depression.
I think the takeaway for me here is, if you are majorly depressed, if you're going through a major depression, thick up your brain. just get some brain thick.
But does that mean you end up being a believer?
Well, it brings up an interesting question.
What are the causal effects of what here?
Would you rather be a happy believer or a miserable atheist?
I would take my misery. It's the devil, right? Like, I'll take my misery any day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you can unring the bell of learning that God isn't real. I think once you realize that God isn't real, once you understand that that's just not actually the case.
People have gone back to religion, haven't they?
Yeah, but I don't think that they've actually. I don't know anybody's specifics, but the sense that I get, the people that I know that I think, that person might go back to religion someday, are the people who left, who are atheists only because something bad happened to them their church or whatever.
Yeah.
And once they find it within themselves to sort of forgive that bad thing, they go back to church.
Right.
But for those who have actually had a realization about, like, oh shit, logic does not support any of this. None of this is reasonable to believe. For those people, I mean, I don't think I could ever be a believer again. It would take
brain trauma
or real, actual, like, miracle level shit. Like, if I actually witnessed some wild miracle stuff, that would be,
such as you had a serious injury or sickness and somebody comes along, puts their hands on you, and you feel the immediate
and the bone reattaches itself, and
you see unscientific things happen.
Right. Things, yeah, exactly. That kind of thing would give me pause. I will say that would give me pause. Yeah,
it might still be a no-go on your belief. But
I wouldn't know where to take that belief, but it would certainly I would reevaluate a few things, a thing or two at that moment. I would expand my belief system somewhat in some direction.
Sure.
Anyway. Well, for certain people,
which people?
People in Florence, South Carolina.
Okay.
For them,
yeah,
I think they'll be not depressed because they're going to have God in their lives.
Are they? How?
Well,
How?
they're trying to bring prayer back into the schools, like good little South Carolinians. This was I'm going to shout out to Wade for sending this in. We generally forget to shout out to the people who send us.
That's
things,
true. Sorry, guys.
I remembered on this one, so hey, thanks, Wade. Anyway, in South Carolina, there's a bill on the table that's going to be voted on. Right now, they've already done a thing where they've made it like there's a section of the code that says that there has to be a minute of silence at the beginning of every school day.
Right.
Because kids are so good at being still. Actually, you know what? That might not be a bad thing. Make the kids be still for 1 minute just to like focus their brains or whatever. I think meditative, I don't know. It would be better if it was guided in some way. But
I would at least get some fluoride in their mouth while they're being silent for that minute. That's just me.
That's it. Dive right into another controversy. That's great. Anywho, so now what they're trying to do is amend this bill so that prayer, so that each teacher is allowed to have a prayer in that moment, in that minute of silence.
I'm sure required.
Yeah, well, I mean, the actual verbiage is all schools shall provide a minute of mandatory silence at the beginning of each school day, during which time a teacher may deliver a prayer. Which, first of all, I don't know how they're defining silence, but in my world, a prayer breaks silence. Yeah. In my life, I usually hear a prayer using my earballs, and that's where perceive That's where I perceive silence and or not silence. Right. But maybe it's different in South Carolina. Maybe silence means something different.
It's a very special place.
It is. We need to get there sometime. We didn't get there on our last trip to the South.
I hear it's lovely. Actually.
Yeah, sure. However, the teacher may deliver that prayer provided the school allows a student to leave the classroom if the student does not want to listen to or participate in that prayer.
That's always such an effective way of...
What could possibly go wrong with that? It's not like suddenly that child is either forced to participate in a religion that they don't want to, or to announce to the entire class, hey, I'm an outsider here. Mm-hmm. Hey, guys, there's nothing that could go wrong with a kid in middle school, for example, saying, hey, everybody, I'm different than all of you.
Right.
Because middle schoolers welcome difference. Socially speaking, that's not suicide at all.
They already know that kid doesn't go to their church. They already know that.
It's just such a...
They already know. Like,
I mean, this should be called the ostracize the non-Christians bill.
Yeah.
That's what this bill should be called.
Well,
I mean, honestly, the truth is they've wanted to kick the non-Christian kids out of these classrooms anyway. Now they're just making them stand up and leave voluntarily.
Yeah.
Or participate in the prayer.
Or, like the poor Jehovah's Witness kids who still just sit there when the Pledge of Allegiance is being recited. That doesn't make them stand out either.
I think that part of this bill, to really make it fair, should be that if you object to this prayer, you can sing a John Philip Sousa tune while it's happening.
Clearly not going to happen.
It's American. It's true.
It's patriotic.
As soon as the teacher starts, oh Lord Jesus Christ, then some of this, and they march. They can march around
with little flag. They need a little flag.
Yeah, exactly. If they bring cymbals, crash cymbals, I think that's appropriate.
We actually did that when I was a kid at home on the 4th of July.
Sure.
We would have American flags and we would march around the house to whatever patriotic music my dad put on the stereo.
Of course you did. I've met your parents, and of course you did. That's well, and my in-laws, my mother-in-law used to wake. They have their whole family has some really kind of fun 4th of July traditions, but one of them is that everybody went to Grandpa's house and slept. All the kids slept in the living room on the floor.
Yeah.
And my mother-in-law would wake them up with John Philip Sousa record.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway,
did they have to march, or did they just like
no?
Bleary-eyed?
The kids would just be all bleary-eyed. But I think that my mother-in-law and her sister, my wife's aunt, would just sort of march around and be silly and fun.
Right.
Anyway,
kids.
That's not really what's happening in South Carolina, though. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, what's happening in South Carolina is that they're trying to waste a whole bunch of taxpayer money defending
on something that's already been decided,
defending inevitable lawsuits that will just come pouring in if this thing passes.
Yeah.
So,
isn't that fun? When will that issue die in this country? When was it? The 50s? 60s? That it became illegal to have prayer in school?
I have no idea.
I know I think my mom talks about being like remembering prayer in the classroom.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of like, oh shoot. I just barely clicked away from I forgot to quote Pickle. Bill Pickle.
Our favorite new name.
And I forgot to quote him. Wait, let me track him down again.
Well, I'm sure if you just Google Bill Pickle.
I think everybody should Google Bill Pickle.
I would not want to see what comes up.
No, but Bill Pickle. I better do this. Okay. Bill Pickle, come on. Here it comes. He said he's a former Florence GOP chairman.
Okay.
He said, since the time that prayer has been tackled.
Okay.
You remember when prayer was tackled?
I'm not quite sure what he means by that.
I think he's talking about the 60s or 70s or 50s or 60s.
Tackled is when when prayer was taken down,
taken out of the schools.
That's tackled to him.
I think so.
All right.
He's not. His name is Bill Pickle. He's not the most eloquent man on the planet. Anyway,
okay. All right. What else does he have to say?
He said, since the time that prayer has been tackled, you'll see that you don't have the discipline, you don't have the respect, you have more violence, and I think many of us believe that correlates directly with not having a little bit of morality boost in the morning.
Mm-hmm. And blacks can marry whites.
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
There's a lot has gone wrong in the world.
I guarantee
since prayer was taken out of, what is this going to do? Really? It's going to turn back? Will it really turn back?
When there were prayers in schools, there were still gangs, but they would snap at each other and dance to fight.
Yeah.
Now they're shooting.
Yeah. Well, they would actually have gang jackets and fun names.
That's
for the
right.
groups.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
None of this Bloods and Crips stuff.
No, those aren't fun names.
Let's get back to Sharks and Jets.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
We're the Bay City Maulers. Oh yeah. Well, we're the Green Jackets. And we're gonna beat up your car. Anyway. It's clearly, it's a good thing that this is happening.
Of course it is.
They need to do that.
All right. Well, I've got a story about, sports. One of my favorite topics.
Yeah.
Sports.
You love sports.
I love sport.
You're a fan of sport.
And belief in God and the role that God has to play in sports. It turns out that about 1/3 of American sports fans, let's put it that way, 1/3 of American sports fans believe that God actually determines who wins and who loses. And so, yeah, we know about, there's sort of that whole stereo, or not, what's the word I'm looking for? It's superstition. Thank you. We know that sports fans can be pretty superstitious, right? They wear their their lucky hat or their lucky socks or whatever it is, right?
Sure.
So that, to help their team. But I mean, that's where I thought it kind of ended. And I know there's like a prayer, excuse me, like teams will pray before they go out in the field and ask God to help them, play well and I guess win. I'm sure that comes into the prayer before they hit the field. Help us win today, Lord Jesus. I mean, our band, we would pray before we would go out and play on the field, play their little number out in the field, Like,
dear Lord, help us win the band.
May our lips be pursed.
May our apertures be accurate and our tempo be correct.
And may please, Lord, help the trombones find the right positions on their instruments.
Especially you, Johnson.
Yeah. May the timpani be in tune.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I was, I know that happens, right? The prayer thing, but I just don't know how you believe that, like, God cares about the outcome of this game and whether or not Fort Gibson beats Hilldale. You know what I mean? Like,
that's
important. Just don't get it.
It's very important. And it's not like the other side isn't also praying.
Yeah.
Both teams are praying to win.
Yeah.
And then if you win, God's on your side.
God, yeah.
Yay!
Well, I mean, it's like BYU. Anytime that their team is, like, doing well, they seriously, legitimately believe that it's, like, a special moment.
Yeah.
That God is, like, helping BYU, like, get all this special extra attention and the media.
Well, I love it when a professional athlete goes, well, first of all, I'd like to give all the glory to God. God, as Jesus is my rock, and couldn't have done it without God. It's like,
no, you couldn't do it without the steroids.
Yeah, exactly. I think
those performance enhancers.
Is God code for human growth hormone? Because pretty sure that's what's doing it.
You don't get a neck that thick.
You look like you swallowed the
just
football.
Because you prayed, dude.
Well, I still pray every time I do anything. Just in case. Just in case.
I mean, I had that phase in my life.
Of course you did.
It's called an LDS mission.
Yeah.
Holy crap, do you pray a lot?
Dear God, please help me not masturbate.
Wow, there was a lot of that. And by that, I mean both prayer and masturbation.
Dear God, please don't let the drains in the shower clog
right now
from all of the semen that we've been dumping down it. Anyway.
But I thought I was the only one.
Anywho, so there you go. Well, I'll tell you what else prayer doesn't help you do. It doesn't help you get out of a North Korean prison. I'm going to tell you the story of Kenneth Bae. He's Korean born. I think South Korean born.
Oh, so how are we spelling Bae?
B-A-E. That's not his given name. His given name is like Pei Jun Ho or something.
But
like
he goes
that.
by Kenneth.
He goes by Kenneth Bae.
Right. Okay.
No relation to Michael Bay, the film.
Well, they spell it differently.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was in North Korea with a group of European tourists.
Okay.
And got caught with a hard drive that had pictures of North Korean starving orphans.
Oh.
And that's bad.
That would be bad.
That's very bad.
North Korea's whole propaganda.
Right, exactly. So he was imprisoned in North Korea for, I think the official charge was something like attempting to overthrow the North Korean government.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
So, yeah.
Clearly. That's what a bunch of pictures of orphans would do.
Right. Anyway, he's been locked up for a while now. People have been really petitioning to try and get him out. He's an American citizen, and so...
Right.
And we don't take kindly to folks locking our people up.
No, we send Bill Clinton or Jimmy Carter.
Right, exactly. Or Dennis Rodman. Skun-dun-dun.
Really?
Well, no. No.
Well, because he has like a weird friendship with the dear leader, right?
Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a disaster. He is absolutely a disaster. Anyway, he recently went... Rodman recently went back to North Korea. This is his second trip.
Uh-huh.
He infamously sung "Happy Birthday" to the great leader. Did you hear it?
The great leader is not allowed to have a happy birthday. According to the State Department, we are not allowed to
wish him a
happy birthday, because that's just not.
It was just more than anything. My objection was just how creepily he sang the song.
Did he do it like Marilyn Monroe?
Kind of.
Shut up.
No, I'm not kidding you. He has this. Rodman has a really low voice. I mean, he's 12 feet tall, and he's got this really deep voice, and it's breathy. Seriously, we probably should play it.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Ooh.
I mean, come on. That's freaky.
Happy birthday, Mr.
Dear leader. Mr. Oppressive Dictator. Mr. Despot. Happy birthday. And nobody knows what to do. They all just start clapping rhythmically because they've never heard this song before. And he's clearly like trying to rile everybody up to sing along with him.
You can't rile them up unless they've been given permission.
Right. Yeah, and he doesn't know what to do. They were silent as he walked into that thing. Anyway.
But that's the North Korean way. I've watched a number of documentaries on these people.
Because they will be killed.
It's a scary, scary place.
They do exactly what they are told to do.
Oh, yeah. And if you're in that room, at that moment, you're a well-positioned person.
Yeah.
You didn't get in there because you're a member of
because you bought a ticket.
No. It was ticketed. But there was no buying a ticket for that thing. Yeah.
Anywho, Rodman has issued an apology.
For wishing him a happy birthday?
No, because this is going back to Mr. Bay.
Oh.
He wasn't able to do anything.
Oh.
He said, I'm sorry I couldn't do anything. It's not my fault. I'm sorry. I just want to do some good stuff. That's all I want to do.
Okay.
That's his quote. He's the only person who has any diplomatic ties. He's the only American who has any access to
Kim Jong-un
at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, he didn't. People were pressuring him, but he couldn't do it.
Well, this Un character has really I've read some whacked out shit about him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he recently killed his uncle.
Like ex-girlfriend too, right?
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
I think I saw something like that.
I just know that his uncle was charged with the crime of having a following, having people
wasn't his.
Having people like him.
Yeah,
and yeah. President Kim.
He's a scary, scary, scary man. It's a scary, scary, scary place.
It's an awful
the documentaries
place.
that I've seen, I'm just like, these filmmakers are some of the craziest people ever be going in there and be doing this.
Did you see the Vice piece that followed the first time that Rodman went in there?
No.
Oh, you got to see it.
I've seen it's
on the HBO Go.
Yeah, Vice did a lot of stuff on them years ago.
Yeah,
and those are the ones that I'm familiar with from Vice. And then there's the Red Chapel, and I'm trying to think of some other ones that just kooky shit.
Right.
Yeah, anyways.
Yeah, apparently, I can't find the quotes, but apparently Rodman had made some unflattering comments about Mr. Bay at one point and said something along the lines of, let's see, he said, where was it? I can't find the actual quote. This is the problem. His remarks were something just unflattering about him. Nobody gives me the actual quote. It pisses me off. Anyway, but he apologized also for making those statements. He said it had been a very stressful day. Some of my teammates were leaving because of pressure from their families and business associates. My dreams of basketball diplomacy were quickly falling apart. I had been drinking and felt overwhelmed by the time of the interview.
Wow. Okay.
Poor guy.
And that led him to say bad things about some dude who's in the country trying to do some good.
Expose some horrible things that are going on there.
I mean, Yeah. Anyways. All right. Well,
there you go.
Well done. Well done, sir.
Everybody,
Dennis Rodman.
Everyone involved in this story is wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone is horrible.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, if you'd like to join in the conversation, or if you haven't liked us on Facebook yet, you can go to facebook.com/TGIAtheist.
You'd be a fool not to.
There is so much wonderful content that will come your way and liven up your week.
Yeah.
Mackenzie does a wonderful job with that.
Don't be dumb.
Yeah.
Also, you can write to us. You can write to us at podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or you could leave us a voicemail at 424-666-8442. We're going to take a quick break. This is some audio with Jim Baker. You'll remember him from the Praise the Lord ministries of back in the day with his wife Tammy Faye Baker.
Indeed.
And then one Mr. Rick Joyner. That name might be familiar to you. He's some ministries leader guy, whatever.
Yeah. Usually I don't mention the president anymore because it's very frightening, because they can take and put you in prison now if you speak out against our leaders. I don't know what happened to America. This is really not the America that I knew when I was a boy. But
well, if we don't speak out, we'll all be in prison.
Oh.
You know. Where are our leaders?
Yeah.
Who is leading this country?
And why are you all following leaders who have come against every tenet of the faith of the Word of the living God? We have done it. America is not America anymore. Is that right?
Yeah.
What Isaiah said about that was that is an ultimate depravity. Starting to call good evil. What God calls good is good. What he says is evil is evil. And those who start calling good evil and evil good and honoring the dishonorable and dishonoring the honorable man, this is an ultimate depravity. And that is what releases his judgment against the nation. And this is what we're experiencing. I believe if we don't speak out, we're all going to be in prison very, very soon. And it's going to be a worse prison than we could imagine. What the devil has planned for our country and what would happen if we don't have revival, we don't have another great awakening, we're going to experience a tyranny and a totalitarian oppression far worse than anything that was experienced in the 20th century.
Gee, I wouldn't want to be one of them.
Their lives are so full of intrigue and excitement. They could go to jail just for questioning the president.
I know.
What's happening to this country?
I know. And then to anything worse than, it's going to be, their fate is going to be worse than anything seen in the 20th century, which means they're referencing the rounding up of Jewish people in Europe.
Yeah.
And concentration camps.
It's going to be so much worse. I tell you what, Dave Silverman is making crematoria.
You're not supposed to talk about that, Dan.
Right now. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, nothing bad is going to, we're not doing. Oh, my God. The way that they talk, I love the jail thing. The jail thing's what's really blowing my mind because it's demonstrably false.
Yeah.
There's evidence. We can look at that. I mean, you can't say, what the future will actually hold. We can apply a pretty high level of confidence, a pretty high confidence value to the idea that no, in the U.S. you will not be rounded up because you're Christian and thrown into the fiery furnaces.
Right.
Not that they'll believe you, but I mean, precedent is pretty clear on that point. On that point, but my God, you're not. Why are these people clapping when they say that they could go to jail for talking about the president?
Or worse, the woman who keeps going,
She sounds like she's she's got one of those remote control vibrators happening. Somebody keeps buzzing her. Yeah.
It sounded a little... Anyways.
Anyway, so we have some people who have written to us, some people who have contacted us. Do you remember that we talked last week, I believe it was last week, about the French comedian and his anti-Semitic
yes, it was last week.
Routines. Yeah. We had some people write in. Beth wrote in She said, I'm an American living in Germany, and while I'm no expert on the laws, sorry, Beth, I'll interrupt you just briefly to point out to remind our listeners that we were talking about free speech laws.
Right.
And we were talking about what should be legal, because in Europe, a lot of countries have laws that say that you can't criticize, you can't deny the Holocaust.
The main one is there's no Holocaust denial, but it kind of gets, you can't like make fun of Jews or incite hatred or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's more strict than it is here in the U.S. And you know, if they're worried that you'll rouse a rabble, then that can be swept up in their laws too.
Right.
So Beth said, while I'm no expert in the law, so she's an American living in Germany, and while I'm no expert in the laws, I'd like to remind you that these laws are in place because people throughout Europe, including France, were rounded up with public knowledge and public consent in the 1930s and taken to their deaths. The social component did not stop this. I would just like to offer that our country has a very different perspective on this issue. If you were to visit a Nazi concentration camp, and they had them in the Alsace region in France, just across the German border, you might have a different point of view. Sincerely, Beth. Yeah, I don't think that this was the Nazi problem was a free speech issue.
Yeah.
I think it was much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And I have visited concentration camps.
Yeah.
I went to Auschwitz and Birkenau.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So
free speech, people exercising free speech did not cause a bunch of Jews to be rounded up in Europe.
Exactly. And people and free speech laws could not, laws restricting speech could not have prevented it.
No. So
it was clearly a huge problem, but I don't think we can put it at the feet of speech.
No.
I mean, I think this was a much deeper, much more horrific
right. The point that we were trying to make is that being the free speech, and in particular comedy is an interesting thing because it's a release valve.
Right.
And wherever you see these little releases happening around specific topics, there's tension in society typically around those issues.
Right.
I mean, not every single joke that a comedian makes is of that ilk, but like that's like, if you see something that's mildly controversial and they're saying it and they're getting away with it because people are laughing and not stringing them up,
right?
Then it can point to some tension in a society.
You can't do a comedy routine about how everything's fine and nothing's bad.
Right.
Nothing's going on.
Right, exactly.
There's no humor.
So he's able to go up against this Holocaust denial stuff and able to make fun of the Holocaust and be able to do all that kind of stuff because there's been limitations on it in French society, in French law.
Right.
And
it's what's perpetuating it.
So now you're able to push up against it, and that was the point that we were making.
Anyway, why don't we do the voicemail? We got a voicemail.
Ooh, we do have a voicemail, and this comes to us from Kevin, and he brings up a couple different things, and we'll just go ahead and play that.
Hey, Frank and Dan. My name's Kevin. I'm calling from Michigan, and I was listening to one of your more recent podcasts, might have been your last one, and you were talking about the pastor who had claimed and the person who had claimed to have been healed through the TV, and you started to sort of have a moment, and you were talking about someone with a pain in their knee, and I was thinking, hey, I had a pain in my knee, but it kind of went away, and then it came back. So I think that you owe me an apology for inflicting harm upon me through your magical podcast powers. Seriously, though, I did want to make a note. You were talking about an experiment later in the podcast where people were instructed to give increasingly high dosage of shocks to other test subjects, and you had mentioned it as a reference to them bristling, I think you said, and refusing to do it. But I think you need to do a little more research. It's referred to as the Milgram experiments done by Stanley Milgram. And actually, the opposite was true. The result was that an overwhelming number of people actually administered a fatal shock, as they were aware, to the test subjects. They didn't bristle, they actually caved. It was a demonstration that authority figures can use their authority to get people to do some pretty terrible things. And I think it's actually a great example of one of the harms religion can have, because a priest, and there's a lot of examples of this, can get their congregation to do some pretty awful things, and their authority is a big part of that. Anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know I love the show. Keep them coming, and I love hearing about all of the crazy Mormon stuff, so I want to hear more of that soon. Bye.
Okay.
Thanks, Kevin.
I have two responses to that. The first is, I don't owe you an apology. That was not your knee I was curing. I've actually had several other people write in, and they all said that their knees are cured.
Are cured, yeah. That's
So-
nice. That's good.
So
Well done. Well done.
You know what? And I'm going to cure somebody else right now.
Oh?
I'm just for fun.
Oh.
Just for fun. If your lumbago's been acting up, I'm going to fix that for you right now. I'm fixing your lumbago. So enjoy that, whoever you are out there, listener with lumbago. Anyway, the other thing about I think there was a miscommunication about the Milgram experiment, because we weren't talking about the part of it where he's right. The majority of people were totally willing to torture other humans. We were talking
the few that did ditch.
right.
Right.
We were talking about the segment of the populace that actually did bristle, and they did.
Turned out was minor.
Was a small amount.
Small amount.
And he makes a good point that that is a concern of religion, because it's a concern.
Yeah.
It's a concern of giving anyone authority over you. If you if people start to recognize authority, they can be convinced to do almost anything. And maybe that is what we should refer back to with Beth's email, which is just that, the problem isn't free speech. The problem is adherence to authority.
Right.
Yeah. And so there you go. Well, we got another email. This one from Sam. It was a very long email, but we adored it, you and I. Mm-hmm. So we're going to read. I'm going to pull out some choice parts of it, and it will lead into our segment. So we'll just
Okie dokie.
go from there. Oh, you know what though? Before we do that, since it is going to lead into our segment, I'm going to thank some people that I've been remiss in thanking our donors. So,
oh yeah, we didn't get to that, Dan.
So yeah, I needed to thank Aaron. I don't think I've ever thanked you. Thank you. He is now Aaron is now a new automatic subscriber.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Aaron.
A weekly subscriber to our show, or a monthly subscriber to our show. Robert gave us both a one-time donation, a lump sum, and then is also a subscriber.
Wow.
A monthly subscriber.
Well,
So
thank you very
that's
much.
very
That's
sweet of you,
fantastic.
Robert. Thank you. Brett gave us a one-time donation. He said, "Love your podcast," and thank you very much. He's in Adelaide, South Australia.
Oh, Adelaide. There's a big car race there, isn't there? The Adelaide 500 or something.
Yeah,
So the Indianapolis of Australia.
And the cars are all driven by kangaroos. So that's
I don't think that's true.
Oh, okay.
But I think there is like a Formula One thing there or something like that.
Okay. And David was a one-time donor as well. So thank you guys so much for your donations. If you also want to donate to us, you can do so by going to thankgodimatheist.com and clicking on the support button. It's a nice thing to do.
And we always appreciate it.
And good
so very
things
much.
will come of it, I promise. And are coming of it.
Well,
I mean, you get a podcast out of it, if nothing else.
We scheme.
We do. We plot.
scheme and we plot.
and scheme.
And there is some plotting and scheming going on at the moment. So
including
as to what to do with the money, because that's the one thing. And to be clear here, to date, at the moment that this podcast is going to be going out there, we've never taken any of this money for ourselves.
No,
we took a trip.
a
road
paid,
trip.
We paid for most of our trip with it. Some of it came out of pocket, but most of it was paid for by donors.
We were able to do that. It helped out a lot, and so like, yeah. So we're trying to further the cause and to further the thing, and we're not like making a shit ton of money off this.
No. Anyway,
we haven't paid ourselves yet. There may come the day where we pay ourselves, but we've never paid ourselves so far.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath. This is not a primary source of income. Let's put it that way, ever. So anyway, Sam wrote to us. He was talking about when he was a Mormon, which you and I are both former Mormons or Formans.
I don't like that.
You don't like Formans?
No.
I like it. I'm going with it.
All right.
Anyway, he was talking about, he was in BYU and
I'm familiar with that.
I liked this point. He said that he was at that age when the young men are expected to go on their missions. He was attending BYU, and he said, I just finished my freshman year at the Y and was riding that Mormon high you get from that BYU atmosphere when all the girls in your ward swoon over your recent mission call.
Oh.
I didn't realize that. See, I was never part of that, like the BYU Mormon culture.
Yeah, I went to BYU after my mission.
Right.
It was kind of a different thing.
He says, seriously, there were lines of guys just waiting to get mission interviews from the bishop every Sunday. Peer pressure, anyone?
I wonder if was he in the dorms? Did he say he was in the dorms?
I don't.
I just can't imagine that many freshmen.
I think his family lived there.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, he says he was accompanied. He was accompanied to the temple because when you go on your mission, you go through. That's when you first go through the temple as a young man. And he says I was accompanied by 30 or so endowed family members. These are people who have had their temple credentials in order.
Yes, they've paid their tithing.
And anyway, he tells a story of seeing the guy in his endowment gear, which is this crazy getup that you wear to the temple. If you guys haven't looked it up, it's just nutty. Anyway, one of the things that happens in the temple is that you are given a celestial name, a new name.
A new name, yeah.
And this name is secret.
Your temple name.
It's your temple name, and it's given just to you, and you don't tell anybody about it.
It's not secret, Dan. It's sacred.
Yeah.
That's very important. There's a big distinction there.
Mm-hmm. To them.
The end result being you're not supposed to tell anyone.
Right. Anyway, he was given his new name, so he said, I'll just read the quotation. He said, I expected this new name to instill me with some superpower or something. Then the guy whispered my new name to me, and I was shocked to find out that it was Sam, which also happened to be my given name. Samuel, but I went by Sam. I was so confused. What the hell, I thought. I felt ripped off because I figured my new name would in fact be, well, a new name. Eventually I brushed it off as I got overwhelmed with all the crazy temple stuff going on. But the confusion came again when I got pushed to the veil. Turns out my given name is the first of 4 handshake passwords to get into the celestial room. And my new name is the second handshake password to get in. I thought, oh my, this seems really inefficient to use the same passcode for both. Well, I mean, we're all of us who have studied, who know anything about, like internet security, know that you don't want to use the same password for all of your things. But apparently, for heaven, it's fine. That's funny. Anyway, so after the temple, I settled on this feeling of being so super duper special that my new name was the same name as my given name, almost as if my parents were so divinely inspired that they gave me my actual official God-sanctioned name instead of some temporary worldly name.
Wow.
Yeah. These are the mental gymnastics that you do as a Mormon.
Yeah.
Well,
as a believer.
Sure.
Mormons have some special
Mormons are
promptings.
really good at this sort of thing. Like, how can I turn this weird thing into meaning that I am so super special? Anyway, I thought that was just great. Like, how fucked up is that? You get your own name as your new name. Oh well, Sam.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he also related another quick story. He said, on my mission, we taught this family that eventually baptized and went to the temple. As the wife went through and got her new name, she freaked out. Turns out years before, she had met with some psychic who warned her that she would meet someone with that name, and she was very dangerous and evil, and she should avoid her at all costs when she meets her. She forgot about it, but it was quietly creeping back in the back of her mind. And when she heard the new name pronounced, it triggered it all. She freaked out so bad that, and he says, I'm not kidding, she ended up having convulsions and actually threw up in the celestial room.
Wow.
They had to shut down endowments for the rest of the day so they could clean it out. But last he heard, she was still active in the church.
Well, she got it out of her system.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out she's the evil one.
She's the one that she was warned about.
Psychic was warning her.
It's amazing.
And how do you avoid yourself? That's just difficult.
Well, that's what she was obviously processing.
Right.
You know, I would throw up too. How do I avoid me?
This temple's a weird thing, Frank.
The temple is a special place.
The temple is a house of God.
Yes. Mormons obviously place it on a sort of pedestal.
Yeah, it's unique. Those of you out there listening, if you are not a Mormon, you're not
a former Mormon.
You're not allowed to go in there.
Right.
You do not get to go in.
Right.
You can go into a Mormon church any day, anytime you want. Well, not anytime. When they're having church, you're allowed to go in there, and you can go to church.
There's some weird stuff now where, like, missionaries spend like half their day at the local ward house,
waiting for someone to come in and ask questions.
Well, while they're there, they do their online missionary work, so they do like their Facebooking, contacting, and all that kind of crap. And they invite it's sort of a constant open house.
Right.
People can just come and check out the local ward house.
Yeah. They may have cookies. It might be worth going, you guys. But don't try to go to the temple.
No.
That's what we're getting to.
Temple will not let you in. Under no circumstance.
Well, the circumstance is that you would have to convert to Mormonism, wait about a year, pay a good 10% of your income
for that year.
For that entire year. And then you get to go to the temple.
Yeah. So you get to pay thousands of dollars in order to get in.
Indeed. So we don't recommend you going through that process.
Yeah.
But you don't get the funny underwear unless you do.
Yeah.
So
you could procure the funny underwear elsewhere.
Through secret channels.
They exist. But anyways, so what we're getting to with this whole what Mormons, we're leading into the segment of what Mormons believe. And we wanted to talk about marriage. Mormon temple marriage.
Well, Mormon marriage in general. And because, with Utah allowing and then not allowing gay marriage and then and going
being future forced to.
Right, exactly.
And currently, for tax purposes, recognizing it all and blah, blah, blah. It's all fucked at the moment. But anyways, yeah,
we thought we'd just discuss what Mormon marriage is and what it looks like, and
what they're trying to protect. Why is this so important? What clearly, once you understand what the Mormons have at stake here,
you'll know
it will
why
be clear to you why
gay people could never,
cannot be allowed. This law cannot stand.
It must not stand. So here's the thing: just as Sam learned. Your family can go with you to the temple if they've already been through and their temple recommend is in order. Right.
So your younger siblings, perhaps, if they're too young to have a temple recommend, they're not going to be able to go to your wedding.
Right.
Or if you're a convert, this is the one that's tragic. You convert to Mormonism, your parents, unless they converted right along with you,
they don't get to go. Nobody,
your non-Mormon parents cannot go to your wedding.
Right. Because it happens in the temple.
Right.
Now, you've been to a Mormon temple marriage.
Yes. There was an elderly couple from my ward this is when I was at BYU. So this is my parents' ward back in Oklahoma. There was these two elderly folk who were out here serving like genealogical missions.
Oh, okay. And they met on their little mission?
And they knew each other before.
Oh, okay.
Because they were both from the same ward. But they fell in love here.
That's a delight.
Brother Lamb had lost his wife like a year or two prior. And so they kind of had... It was a strange duo, I have to say. I never quite figured it, could understand it. But anyways, so I was down at BYU and my parents were like, hey, you should come up. We're going to be there. They were really good friends with Brother Lamb.
Okay.
And so they came out for it. And And so all right. I had a temple recommend at the time.
Sure.
I was totally on my way out of the church, but I still had an active one.
Right.
And so I went up to the temple here in Salt Lake.
Okay.
And I sat in on the one temple marriage I've ever sealing. I mean, they're pretty clear about that. The marriage is the civil union, and the sealing is what happens in the temple.
They are sealed together for time and all eternity.
Yeah.
And that's the language that they use.
Yeah. So what's interesting about it is that on any given day, especially Salt Lake Temple, downtown Salt Lake City Temple, it's a line of people waiting to get married.
They are pumping them
through. It's a mill, right?
Yeah.
Like this is not like...
Because the Salt Lake Temple is the temple.
Yeah. But I would think that most temples along the Wasatch Front are probably pretty busy with marriages every single day.
Wasatch Front meaning in Utah, in the Salt Lake and Provo area.
Yeah. Because there's a bunch of temples here.
Yeah, there's a lot.
What, like a dozen or so, probably?
Maybe, yeah, something in that range. Which is funny because you go to like Europe or whatever, and there's a temple for every 3 countries or something like that.
Yeah, it's a little bit better now because they build the little mini temples.
Oh, that's right.
Where they're basically the Motel 6
the drive-through temples.
But nonetheless, I went down to the Salt Lake City Temple, and it's a lineup of people. And
do you have to go through the whole endowment ceremony?
Technically, if you've both been through the endowment, if you both have your own endowment, you don't have to go through it. But there is a sort of the tradition of the man bringing the woman through the veil.
Right.
And so there's a little shortcut that one can do if you're not going to go through the endowment.
So you don't have to watch the whole movie or watch the whole little play if it's the Salt Lake Temple.
And if you both have your endowment.
Right.
If you don't both have your endowment, typically what happens is the woman goes through for her first time because the guy probably went for like his mission. Right. And so she goes through for her first time, is freaked the fuck out.
Right.
As you are.
Entirely.
And it's her wedding day.
Right.
Okay. And so then he takes her through the veil, I guess.
She has to learn all of the handshakes and like code words that get you into heaven.
Not having been temple married myself, I'm not sure of the whole sequence of events. Right. I do have to say that. I tried to look it up real quick this morning, but I didn't find the details that I was looking for. But nonetheless, there is that whole thingy that does happen. And then, but anyway, so the ceremony itself, this how does it play out? Well, once you get into one of the sealing rooms, there's a temple sealer there so everybody kind of comes pushing into this sealing room. And there's various different sizes of sealing rooms. Some are quite small if you have a small party. Mm-hmm. And some, especially like in the Salt Lake City Temple, some are a little bit bigger.
Sure.
That can accommodate, I don't know, maybe 20, 30-ish people if you really packed them in.
Are these the rooms that have the gimmicky mirrors on both sides?
There's a mirror on both sides of the room. So there's infinity, right? This is really important to Mormons that this marriage that's being performed is an eternal marriage.
Right.
It is for, like Dan said before, for time and all eternity.
And time, they just mean, that's such a weird phrase, but all they're referring to is like
your time on earth.
Your time on earth. For time and all eternity.
Yes, it's very, very dramatic.
And we'll eventually get to...
This stands in place of until death do you part.
Right, yeah, because fuck that. Death ain't going to part shit.
Yeah. I now pronounce you man and wife for time and all eternity.
Yeah.
That's what they say, not until death do you part. So anyway, so the sealer, he has both the civil authority to do marriages and the power,
the celestial authority
invested in him from God to seal. He is a sealer. What is sealed on earth shall be sealed in heaven.
Yeah.
Right. So he seals it, and it is sealed in heaven. And so, anyways, so they kneel across an altar. Right. This is very important.
Across, there's
a little
two kneeling
altar,
pads, and then there's a thing between them,
and a paddy pad, and they kneel across it, and they take each other's right hand in the patriarchal grip.
Which is one of the handshakes.
It's one of the. It's like the creme de la creme.
Is that the one with the pinkies?
It's the intertwined pinkies and the finger.
And the finger like on the wrist,
right
thing.
Here, like touching you on the tendon right there on your wrist.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just creepy feeling. Like,
Ooh,
I hate it. And I know it has like I've like explained a lot of this stuff to other people and just been creeped out the whole time. They have no frame of reference, and they end up just being like totally unimpressed.
So,
like, okay, well, show me this hand grip. You show it to them, they're like, okay, why is that creepy to you? And it's like, because it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like, I think non-Mormons have a hard time really grasping, like, what's so fucking creepy about it?
I'll tell you what's creepy about it. Here's what's creepy about it. Everything about Mormon church before you go to the temple is boring and lame and completely unremarkable.
And also, what's important is besides the sacrament, the blessing of the sacrament,
right,
which has to be done verbatim,
right, which is literally just there's bread and water, and a 16-year-old kid reads a prayer off of a card.
And besides that, nothing has been ritualistic.
Right.
Nothing has been like ceremony, like
right.
true like ceremony.
Other than the fact that every meeting is equally boring in the same way.
Yeah, but
there's no
Mormons
nobody
always
make
a big deal about they have no set prayers,
right.
except for that one over the sacrament. They have no set prayers, and that was always like a thing, right? There's a pattern to how you pray, but it's supposed to be in the moment. You're supposed to be inspired. You're supposed to blah 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 blah. But you go to the temple, and nothing is like that. It's all written down, and it all has to be done exactly the right way because God is such a stickler for details.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Right.
You got to stand up and walk to the next room at this point, and then at this point, everybody has to get in a circle and put their arms up in the air.
Yeah,
and do this
and chant things,
chant stuff,
and it's just it's weird
to a Mormon mind. It's loco.
Yeah,
to do all this stuff.
Right.
Totally crazy balls.
The good Mormons and the Mormons who wanted to like stay in the church, they just deal with it.
Yeah.
And they say how beautiful it is and all that kind of crap. But anyways,
because they're required, anything that's Mormon is required to be good.
Yeah.
And so you have to somehow find a way to like lie to yourself.
Right.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And so I guess actually, so it starts off with the couple. I don't think initially they have their hands gripping. They're just sort of kneeling there. They might actually be seated for a minute. Mm-hmm. And typically the temple sealer will give a quick little talk to the couple about marriage and what they're entering into. But he's really just talking to them. And then he has them kneel across the altar and take each other's hand in the patriarchal grip. And by the way, okay, so this girl whose chances are has never been to the temple before. She doesn't fully know what's going on. She's gone out. She's bought like a really modest wedding dress and all this kind of stuff. Because you have to be very covered, like wrists down to your wrists covered.
Yeah.
High neckline.
Right.
Dress way like to the floor type shit here, right?
A lot of Mormon girls buy two dresses,
right?
One for the temple, one for when they leave the temple,
for the photos,
to
look good, because the reception,
the reception dress.
And so, but anyway, so they have some wedding dress that they've picked out. It's all covered in the Mormon temple crap.
Yeah.
Like they have the stupid hat on, right? They've got the stupid little shawly thing on.
The
They've
green
got the apron on.
Oh my god!
Like they totally muck up her dress.
Yeah, she does not look pretty anymore.
She does not look pretty. She is frump.
And he looks like the purple pie man, only in white, with his silly chef hat on and his nobody looks good.
Nobody looks good.
And then you get all freaked out.
And then so anyways, and then they like do the actual sealing, and it smacks of a wedding ceremony. There's
similar language.
Similar language. You have to consent. You have to say like I think you say yes. I don't think you say I do. And there's like blah blah. And I can't remember how all it went. But anyway, so then you get pronounced man and wife. And or God and Goddess, who knows? I can't remember. And
that was good.
I'm pretty sure there is talk of like
you will
creative powers.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what that means.
Because that's what this is. This is like everybody. If everything goes according to plan and everybody's good Mormon until they die, this is the couple that in eternity gets their own planet and gets to be God.
Yeah.
Over that whole planet.
Yeah.
And multiple planets. Yeah. Anyway, I want to move on because.
Oh,
well, I mean, are you done with the ceremony?
Well, the only thing I was going to say is that then you stand up and everybody gets ushered out real quick, so the next group can just come in, plop down, do the exact same thing all over again.
Yeah,
it's very well. It's a factory.
It's a marriage mill.
Yeah,
yeah.
Unless you're at a slower temple, like I assume if you went to like Dallas, the Dallas temple in the middle of the week and kind of an off marriage season, right, you'd probably be able to linger.
Yeah, sure.
But
could hang out.
Yeah.
Everybody can look at themselves in the eternity mirrors and be like, ooh, look, I go on forever.
And dance around a little bit.
Sure.
But not in the Salt Lake temple. No way in hell.
No.
So
there's that. Now there's another kind of Mormon marriage that I wanted to talk about.
Oh, yeah, this was kind of this actually gets to the gist of what we really wanted to talk about. I was long-winded, sorry.
That's okay. This is the unworthy Mormon wedding, which makes me so happy. This is what happens when one or both partners in the marriage, in the wedding, didn't pass muster for the temple recommend.
Right.
For whatever reason, meaning like these two may have been having sex beforehand.
She might be pregnant.
He might still smoke.
Uh-huh.
Any number of things.
Right.
Can prevent them from getting this recommend.
Right.
Which means, but they don't want to postpone the wedding because there is the option of like waiting the year that they probably would have to wait and like keeping themselves on the straight and narrow path until such time.
Right. But if there's a bun in the oven,
right, there's nothing you
got to get married.
Yeah.
Right now.
So what you do is you have a wedding ceremony like a normal person outside of the temple.
Right.
With your bishop. Right. Instead of the sealing guy, your bishop, who does a whole, a pretty normal ceremony, usually says something fucking condescending about why they're not in a temple in an attempt to be all like, whatever, preachy and stuff. But usually
there'll probably be some little remark about how hopefully in 1 year we'll get this done right.
Right. Yeah.
Or something like that.
Or something about,
the one that counts will be in a year.
But the real jab comes when the bishop invariably says, and I marry you for time.
Yes. He doesn't finish.
And leaves it at that. Doesn't say for time and all eternity because that's the temple.
Or use the one that would just be any normal, respectful person would say, I now pronounce you man and wife. Until death do you part. If he must say anything.
No.
Right?
He specifically uses the phrase, for time. I marry you for time. You may kiss the bride.
And not eternity.
You may kiss the naughty, naughty bride. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is, if you ever have the chance to go to a Mormon wedding that's not in a temple and you hear that phrase, just know that it's code for you are bad.
You're not worthy. Yeah.
You are not worthy.
You're not worthy.
It's great.
Of the blessings of the temple.
It's great. And everybody gets to attend, and so that's a big plus.
It's actually really nice.
It's a great thing. Everybody gets to go, but all of the people who are going there in their Mormon garments are sitting there. Part of their brain is grumpy.
Mm-hmm.
Part of their brain is like, this shouldn't be happening.
Right.
This should not be happening.
It's just so weird. It's just, I just always feel so awkward at these things.
I feel bad.
And they can't be plied by liquor, so.
Right, exactly. So, and that there are some Mormon women and Mormon men who are crying because they're, A, Mormons are weepers.
Right.
And B, they're not. What if they die before they get sealed? Well, it's okay. Somebody can be sealed for them and blah, blah, blah. But
the millennium, that's what the millennium's for, Dan. Remember, whenever you have a question like that, that's what the millennium's for. The Lord will work it out in the millennium.
They'll sort it all out. There's 1,000 years to sort all that shit out. Yeah. And so
she would be a fool. If he's the one who died, she would be a fool to be sealed to him. Waste her one sealing on a guy who's now dead?
Yeah, that's true. Because a man can be eternally sealed to multiple women. We know this because, Joe Smith got married to a whole bunch of people, and polygamy is no longer practiced by the church unless it's eternal polygamy.
Yes,
because a man who was married to a woman Like your elderly, your parents' elderly friend, who was married to another woman, he didn't have to go through any process to lead to eternally disentangle himself from her,
right,
to marry this other woman,
right?
Because men can still be married to multiple women eternally,
right?
Women,
so his new bride could look forward to spending eternity with the first sister lamb,
right? With the other sister lamb. Mm-hmm. That's right. However, if she had been married before and lost her husband and wanted to marry brother lamb, well, that's just a problem.
Well, they could have a nice little civil ceremony like we just talked about.
They can even
and just do a time thing because they're both elderly.
Right.
Right. And so maybe this is a for companionship type thing.
Right. So they can have a 4-time marriage.
Or if she's so in love with this guy and done with, schmo over here.
If brother so-and-so who kicked the bucket, beat her or whatever, she could file for a temple divorce.
And they don't like to call it a temple divorce. They call it a
cancellation of sealing.
Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
However, they don't like to do those.
No, they don't.
You have to show a lot. You have to show that, like, that other dude, because that dude has rights.
He does.
That dude
dead.
He owns her.
Yeah.
They agreed on it. They shook hands with the handshake, with the
creepy shake,
the patriarchal grip. He owns her. He gets to call her forth in the final days.
Yeah. Well, they have to make him forget her name.
Oh, and we forgot that. By the way, the man is never to reveal his temple name to anybody. The woman tells the man her temple name
when she goes through the veil.
That's
what the whole him taking her through the veil thing is about, because that's symbolic of the morning of the first resurrection, when he would be able to call her forth using her new name. Yeah.
Now, mind you, every woman that was endowed on that same day got the same name. So frankly, you're going to probably, you're calling Ruth. You got to go through like a ton of Ruth. No, not you. Ruth. Ruth. Oh, come here. No. Oh, shit. Sorry. Wrong Ruth. You over. So if a resurrection happens, gentlemen, start calling out names.
Yeah.
You may be able to call somebody forth and trick her.
Yeah, maybe. if you happen to be lucky enough to be there.
just hang out. Yeah. See what you can make happen. Oh my God, it's all so crazy, and anyways,
so how we can tie this in though to
what makes this relevant to now
to current events is, and we kind of alluded to it at the beginning of it. The whole thing is that Utah is going through this sort of weird moment of there were some gay marriages that were performed here,
right? Much
to the chagrin of the state government and to the LDS Church,
right?
And so the Mormon Church felt the need to actually respond to that, and they've sort of doubled down on the whole gay marriage stance that they have. And one of the things that they wanted to make really clear in this statement that they issued is that Mormon bishops who have the authority to perform civil marriages, right, like we were just talking about.
Most Mormons don't get married by their bishop.
They
only these unworthy ones do.
Right. But he has the authority. He has he's gone down to his local government.
He is credentialed by the Mormon Church to do this.
Exactly. And he has that civil authority as well.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And so the question came up of, clearly somebody asked the question, well, what if one of our bishops uses that civil authority to marry a gay couple?
Yeah.
He's a bishop. He can't do that. And so they wanted to make it explicitly clear. And so they have.
Yep.
And
so if you're gay and you want to get married,
don't go to your bishop.
Don't go to the bishop. Don't go to the Mormon bishop for
not that I think you would, but
I would, just to fuck with him. Will you please perform my marriage?
Well, what's interesting is they basically have this it doesn't count for them, right?
Right.
And culturally and socially, they're such dicks about these marriages that get performed by the bishop. I mean, I understand why they're not letting the bishops do it, but in another thought, it's like, well, why even care?
Yeah, exactly. These
if
guys,
it counts for nothing according to your doctrine,
more than anything, you want
why
to know,
do you even care?
You want to know the real reason not to let a bishop do your gay wedding or your straight wedding? Because they do throw in all of those little jabs.
Yeah.
They can't help themselves.
Oh,
Every time I've seen one, they've jabbed.
Right.
About how you're not, oh no, this is not eternal. Just so that everybody's clear. This is not an eternal marriage. This is just for now.
It's temporary.
It's just temporary.
It's just so you're not fornicating.
One of these people dies, it's over. It's just done.
Yep. Oh, it's so sad.
It is so sad.
And so and there's no way for them to find each other.
You know what I just thought of? Here's what I just thought of. I want to throw this out there.
What?
Since the Mormon bishops will not do your gay marriage, if you're in Utah, I'll do your gay marriage for you.
Wow.
I'm just going to throw this out there. Anybody who wants
well, whenever it comes back,
a TGIA marriage, or I'll go to another state.
Okay.
I'll travel.
Okay.
Maybe not right now because I'm in the show and stuff, but I mean, if it can be worked out, you go ahead and ask me. I'll find, I'll get some online like spaghetti monster credentials.
Sure.
I am happy to officiate your gay marriage. Just throwing that out there. Anyway,
great.
That's how we roll here. Well, if you have if you want to take me up on that offer, you can write to us at podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or you could leave a voicemail at 424-666-8442.
Right? Or you can join the conversation on the old Facebook-a-rooney.
Yeah.
Facebook.com/TGIAtheist.
Yep. Mackenzie's always putting up stuff. And of course, thank you, Mackenzie, for doing that.
Yeah, and thanks to the Red Rock Hot Club for the music.
Mm-hmm.
And have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye.